There are three aspects that you need to focus on in order to build muscle. The first of those is resistance training. Resistance training is you are using your muscles to push against resistance, and this allows them to adapt. You expose a living creature to something enough times and it will adapt. For instance, look at my hands. They have adapted to getting beat up, okay? They've calloused over. The same thing can happen to your muscles if you expose them to resistance training. The resistance training, though, has to be consistent and it has to be progressive. In order to get the adaptations you want, you have to be consistent. You have to be willing to do the resistance exercises day after day, or maybe every other day. You have to be consistent with that week in and week out. And it also has to be something that progresses. You can't just stay at the same weight, or maybe you start out at an augmented exercise, maybe one that is easier for you to do, but as you get stronger, you need to progress. One thing that we do need to keep in mind, though, is connective tissue adapts more slowly than muscle tissue. So ligaments and tendons, you'll find that sometimes they rip. And this is due to a lot of different factors. But one of the things we can do is we can be patient with our bodies and allow our connective tissue to adapt to the stress we're putting on it. And that helps us prevent injury. Now let's give you guys a starter pack, the 4 workouts that you are going to do as a beginner in order to build muscle.
The first exercise in this starter pack is the squat. And this is an assisted squat. It's actually a box assisted squat, or you can really sit down, squat onto anything. I actually had my dad use the stairs and he held on to the railing to assist himself up. So you assist yourself up and you assist yourself down, and you want to make sure that you're pushing your butt back first and then sitting down and then standing back up. Next is the unassisted box squat. So you sit down and you stand up exactly the same way as you did when you were doing it assisted, but now it's just unassisted. So use those glutes. And then finally, it's the body weight squat. You want to keep your lower back straight, not rounded. So here, I'm not giving the 100% best example. You want to make sure that that lower spine is very, very straight when you get to the bottom. The next exercise is the Romanian deadlift, or you could call this a stiff-legged deadlift. Anyways, you're starting from the top position and you're going down, feeling a stretch in the hamstrings and the glutes, and you want to make sure that you're keeping your lower back straight the entire time. And you can vary the weight with this with your everyday household items that are laying around, a gallon of water, a couple gallons of water, or you can have jugs of water. A gallon of water weighs about 8 pounds. So if you have a gallon of water in each hand, you are deadlifting about 16 pounds. If you have a 5-gallon jug of water in each hand, then you are deadlifting 80 pounds. And you can always start off by doing this with just body weight. You can do all of these push-up variations kneeling as opposed to in a complete plank position. You also want to make sure your torso is straight so your butt isn't sticking up in the air or sagging down to the floor. The first push-up variation is the traditional push-up. Your arms are 45 degrees from your torso and your hand positioning is a little bit below your shoulders, right at around the bottom of the chest. The next variation is the narrow or close grip push-up, also known as the military push-up. This one, your hands are in about the same position, but your arms are at a smaller angle relative to your torso than the standard push-up. And you'll feel this a lot more in your triceps. And finally, the last push-up variation is one I came up with while making this video. This is the shoulder push-up, and this is where you have your hands out in front of you. You're engaging your shoulders as well as your triceps and chest. And I might also mention that this is the one push-up variation where you can cheat your butt up a little bit. You can stick it up in the air a little bit. The last exercise is the pull-up, and the first variation you'll have to start out with is the eccentric pull-up. So this is where you can jump up to the top of the range of motion and then let yourself down. You can also move into banded pull-ups. So this is assistance with the band. And then finally, you can do unassisted pull-ups. And generally, I like to do these neutral grip. And a particularly good cue I've found that helps me actually utilize my back and not round my shoulders is pulling my chest to the bar as opposed to trying to get my chin above the pull-up bar. This is the only exercise where you're going to have to go out and purchase something, but you can get a pull-up bar for very cheap from Amazon, Walmart, or even Goodwill. And here are a couple of splits or exercise days I have written up. Here is an upper lower day and also a full body day. You can do as many sets or reps as you'd like, but generally this is what I would recommend. I would also recommend that you don't push yourself too hard in the beginning, as your connective tissue is going to have to adapt to the stress you're putting on it. So I would generally suggest that you keep a few reps left in reserve.
The next thing we have to talk about is intake or consumption. We consume food and we consume water, and we have to consume the right kind of food and we have to consume enough water in order for our muscles to have the proper nutrients they require to recover. So when we talk about food, we want to focus on protein. Protein is very important. Protein helps our muscles rebuild themselves, and we want to eat between 0.75 grams of protein to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. So for instance, I'm a 200-pound man, so I want to eat between 150 and 200 grams of protein a day. I was going to say per pound of body weight, but yeah, per day. It's also worth mentioning that you want to eat complete proteins. And in order to do that, you have to eat animal products or you have to eat plant products. And if you're going to eat plant products, you want to eat them in combination with each other. Generally, you'd eat legumes with grains, seeds, or nuts. Next, we want to focus on calories. And in order for me to be able to show you in an efficient way how we're going to look at calories, let's look at the computer. So here online, I'll link both of these websites. First, we have a basal metabolic rate calculator. This is going to allow us to see how many calories we're burning a day just doing nothing. So I'm going to put in my age, 29, my height, 6'0", of course, my weight, 200 pounds. We're going to see how many calories I need to eat for little to no exercise, and it says there right around 2,300 calories. And obviously, if I'm doing more exercise, my body is going to require more calories for fuel. So in order to gain weight, I'm going to have to eat 5 to 10% of what my body is expending per day. And in order to lose weight, I'm going to have to eat 5 to 10% less than what my body is consuming per day. And in order to calculate that, we're going to go over here to Cronometer. I've already put in all of the food I've eaten for a day, and we'll see I've consumed around 3,400 calories. And we can see that I've hit 187 grams of protein. That falls between that 150 that I was talking about and that 200. So I am meeting my protein requirements for the day. You can also scroll down and you can see if you are deficient in any of your vitamins or minerals. And actually, if you hover over these vitamins, you can see what sources of food you would need to eat in order to fill these out. But just as a general rule of thumb, protein is for building muscle and for recovery of the body in general, and carbs and fat are for fuel. And of course, we can't forget about water. When you are thirsty, drink water. You want to make sure you keep your salt levels reasonable, your electrolyte levels reasonable. So if you're sweating a lot, make sure you consume those electrolytes as well. And finally, we need to talk about recovery. Recovery is very important. You want to do active recovery, so you're working the lactic acid out of your muscles and you're not going to be really sore all the time. So moving around, getting your muscles moving after a hard resistance training session is very good because you end up feeling a whole lot less sore and recovering a whole lot faster. Finally, it's very important to mention that sleep needs to be a priority. You should be getting between 7 and 9 hours of sleep a night, and you want to be getting to bed at a consistent time every night. If that was a little fast for you or you just want it, I have created a PDF with all of the information contained in this video, and I'll link it in the description. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment down in the comment section. Now, go build that muscle.